What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Bonnie and this is my channel where I talk about all things lifestyle and DIY. So if you're interested in either of those, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on those notifications. Today is actually going to be a bit of an experiment because I have not worked with epoxy resin before, but I have always wanted to try it. So I purchased a piece of oak from Home Depot and I'm going to cut it in half and I'm going to form circular coasters and that's what I'm going to be using for my project today. So the resin is to create a faux resin river inside these coasters. You might have seen them on Pinterest or on Instagram before, so I thought I'd give it a shot as my first epoxy resin project. I did purchase some powder for the epoxy resin, so there's 24 different colors that come in this pack, and then I also purchased a Wagner heat gun, which is going to be used to pop the bubbles when the epoxy starts to cure. So I am going to go ahead and get started and see how this goes. So I went ahead and I found the center of my board, so it's 5.5, so divided by 2, that's going to be 2.75, and that's where I'm going to mark it. And then I'm just going to do the same on the other end and draw a line so that I know I have a straight center line. Alright guys, so what I did here was I used a metal blade for the jigsaw and I set the blade at an angle so that I could kind of get a more natural look for this faux live edge. So I just cut down the middle, but I kind of did like waves all the way around or all the way down so that we could get this natural live edge look. So right now this is what it looks like put together, but what I'm going to do to make this look better is I'm going to separate them and then I'm going to flip one side over. So now you have this look of a faux live edge. And once that's filled with epoxy, that is going to be so pretty. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the silicone molds and I'm going to trace around so that I can get a piece of both sides of the wood that will fit inside the coaster mold. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and now I'm going to cut out each and every one of them with the jigsaw. So when I'm tracing these do not have to be perfect because I will be cutting them out and sanding them down to make sure that they are perfectly round at the end. So now I have each side drawn out. I'm going to take the jigsaw and cut out each of these pieces individually. Alright guys, so I have never done this before, but I'm pretty sure I watched enough videos and this is kind of what it's supposed to be like. So I have pressure on the coasters all the way across because I have the 4 going over every single coaster with the little taped pieces underneath, and then I have 3 going across, and I have them clamped and propped up on some screw boxes. So I'm going to make it work and we will see how this turns out. Okay guys, so this is the resin that I got. It was just from Amazon. I don't know if this is the best one to start off with, but that is why I got it, so we will see. This is a 1-to-1 ratio, so you want to mix 1 part resin to 1 part hardener in your little measuring cups, and that's what it came with, so it's kind of cool. This pack also came with stir sticks, and it came with this like free product, which is like the mica powder or the pigment that you could get just for purchasing the resin from them. But I did go ahead and purchase my own mica powder set aside from the free product, but it also came with this little scraping thing as well as these measuring cups. These are the instructions that came with it, so make sure you read thoroughly, but it pretty much says that it is temperature sensitive, so make sure that the workspace that you are working in is going to be a controlled temperature area. Alright guys, so I have the resin poured into the coaster molds, and I definitely over poured just because I didn't get the leveling of the wood pieces right, so they were kind of uneven. So I wanted to make sure that when I sanded it down that they would be pretty even to each other, which will probably cause me to have to sand a lot more afterwards, but I just want these to turn out nice, and hopefully they do. But I'm just gonna take my heat gun to make sure that there are no air bubbles, and then I'm gonna let these sit overnight. All right, guys, so we are at 48 hours after the first coat of epoxy that I did. It did settle quite a bit, so I ran a second layer of epoxy through, and it's been 24 hours since that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off these clamps and see how they turned out. All right, guys, so I think I used the wrong kind of tape, because the tape that you're supposed to use is supposed to make it easier for you to take them off because the silicone or the epoxy doesn't stick to it. So I have to sand these down a lot anyways, so I don't think it really matters, but that is what I'm going to do next. Look how pretty these are though, and they should pop out of it pretty easily. I love them. Okay, don't mind the imperfections right now. They will look better once they're sanded. All right, guys, so this is going to take a lot of sanding because of how much overpour there is and all of that stuff. But something that I did make a mistake for is that you guys can see this piece right here. I forgot to sand the wood pieces before pouring the epoxy because I thought I would be able to sand it off, but the epoxy sunk it, so instead of it sticking straight out, it is now in the epoxy. So that is a mistake that I will not do next time. So I just kind of taped these coasters down onto the table, and I'm gonna run over it with a sander really quick to get all of that extra epoxy resin off. All right, guys, so you can see right here that this is the half that I just got done sanding, or the portion that I just got done sanding, and this side is not sanded yet. So the epoxy is still super shiny, and obviously it's not sanded off of like the coaster part yet. So I'm just gonna go ahead and work on that next. All right, guys, so I decided that I was only going to sand 4 of these because I was originally supposed to do 2 sets of 4, but they are really just too much work for the tools that I have. So lesson learned, I'm not going to do circular coasters going forward until I know that I have the right tools to properly do them, to save myself a whole lot of time. So I literally spent probably 3 hours sanding these 4 coasters, and they still aren't perfect, but I'm going to go ahead and seal these and then see how they turn out. To seal them, I'm going to go ahead and use this Varathane oil-based spar urethane. It's technically for your exterior, but it has really good UV protection, mold and mildew resistant, and it seals out water, which if these are going to be for coasters, you definitely want to have that characteristic in your sealer. So I'm going to go ahead and shake this up and give these a coat.